Hello, Chargers. It's Teacher Thomas.
Reggie!
Hey, okay. So Reggie and I are here to read you chapter 15 of Edward Tulane. So before we get started, Reggie was saying, yes, Reggie?
I think I know what's going to happen next!
Oh, really? So you have a prediction. A prediction is when you can say what you think is going to happen next in some story.
I think that Edward is going to find a new friend.
Well, that's really exciting. I mean, right? Don't you think it would be exciting if you found a new friend? And it makes sense that you are predicting that Edward is going to find a new friend because that's been the pattern in the book so far. So let's go ahead and get started. Help me turn the page and we can see if your prediction, what you said is going to happen next, actually happens. All right. Thank you, Reggie. In the morning, the sun rose, and the cricket song gave way to the bird song, and an old woman came walking down the dirt road and tripped right over Edward. She said. She pushed at Edward with her fishing pole. Looks like a rabbit, she said. She put down her basket and stared at Edward. Only ain't real. She stood back up. She said again. She rubbed her back. What I say is there's a use for everything and everything has its use. That's what I say. Thank you. Edward didn't care what she said. The terrible ache he had felt the night before had gone away and had been replaced with a different feeling, one of hollowness and despair. Pick me up or don't pick me up, the rabbit thought. It makes no difference to me. The old lady picked him up. She bent him double and put him in her basket, which smelled of weeds and fish, and then she kept walking, swinging the basket and singing, Nobody knows the troubles I've seen. Edward, in spite of himself, listened. I've seen troubles too, he thought. Yes, Reggie?
I've also seen troubles.
Okay, Reggie, settle in. So he thought that he had seen troubles too, like you, Reggie. You bet I have, said, and apparently they aren't over yet. Edward was right. His troubles were not over. The old woman found use for him. She hung him from a pole in her vegetable garden. She nailed his ears to the wooden pole and spread his arms out as if he were flying and attached to the pole by wrapping pieces of wire around them. In addition to Edward, pie tins hung from the pole. They clanked and shone in the mid-morning sun. Ain't no doubt in my mind that you can scare 'em off, the old lady said. Scare who off? Edward wondered. Birds, he soon discovered. Crows. They came flying at him, cawing and screeching, wheeling overhead, diving at his ears. Go on, Clyde, said the woman. She clapped her hands. You gotta be ferocious. Clyde? Edward felt a weariness so intense wash over him that he thought he might actually be able to sigh out loud. Would the world never tire of calling him by the wrong name? The old woman clapped her hands again. Get to work! Reggie. Get to work, Clyde, she said. Scare them birds off. And then she walked away from him. out of the garden and toward her small house. The birds were insistent. They flew around his head. They tugged at loose threads in his sweater. One large crow, in particular, would not leave the rabbit alone. He perched on the pole and screamed a dark message in his left ear, caw, 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 without ceasing. As the sun rose higher and shone meaner and brighter, Edward became somewhat dazed. He mistook the large crow for Pellegrina. Go ahead, he thought. Turn me into a warthog if you want. I don't care. I'm done caring.
Caw, caw!
Nice job, said the Pellegrina crow. Finally, the sun set and the birds flew away. Edward hung by his ears and looked up at the night sky. He saw the stars, but for the first time in his life, he looked at them and felt no comfort. Instead, he felt mocked. What is it?
Wow! Can we show this picture to the kids?
Sure, Reggie. Help me turn it around.
Okay.
Nice work, Reggie. Yeah, so you can see the way that Edward's been tied to this pole so that he can scare off the crows from this old woman's crops. Thank you, Reggie. All right, let's flip this last page. All right, you got to just settle down. There we go. All right, there you are, Reggie. Yes. You are down there alone, the stars seem to say to him, and we are up here in our constellations together. I have been loved, Edward told the stars. So, said the stars, what difference does that make when you are all alone now? Edward could think of no answer to that question. Eventually, the sky lightened and the stars disappeared, one by one, and the birds returned, and the old woman came back to the garden. And she brought a boy with her. Yeah, Reggie?
If she brought a boy, maybe that boy is going to be Edward's new friend.
I kind of agree with you, Reggie. I think that is also a really good prediction. We'll see next time whether it was right.